Hello and welcome, Randy Bueller. We got Skype working. David Ochoa is able to join us. Welcome to the booth.
How's it going? How are you doing?
Doing all right. I like the hat. It's good times.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Sorry about the the turn one kill from Bob Maher. That's two of those he put up over the course of the evening. I don't know. What was your take on the decks and the plays so far tonight?
The decks in terms of what people brought and what I expected people to bring, or
just haven't had the chance to talk to you. Missed you a couple rounds ago, so I don't know. I'm curious your take on the metagame. Let's start there. You've been playing the workshop deck pretty consistently. Do you think it's just a cut above, or it's the vintage deck you know best, or what went into your deck selection process?
Well, I just had a limited amount of time, so I just went with a deck that was performing well. I didn't really look to do anything in terms of positioning because it wasn't really a known quantity what the metagame was going to be like, so I just picked a deck that was performing well.
Fair enough. Anything surprise you or look particularly interesting now that all the decks have come out?
Let's see. At least for our pod, no. I mean, it seemed like it just is a regular chop of like if you were to just go to your normal vintage tournament, that's the average composition. Like nothing, no surprise. I mean, you have a mentor deck, you have an outcome deck, you got a workshop deck, and then I don't know what's the fourth deck. I didn't really.
It's a second mentor. It's two mentors, workshops, and outcome. I think you're right. I think it is just the current vintage metagame in a nutshell. About as close as you can get to it with 4 players, anyway.
Yeah, if you expanded the pods a bit, then I would expect there to be a little bit more variation. But no, I mean it's pretty spot on with what you should see if you were just to go and pick 4 people and play vintage with them.
Now, that outcome deck, we just saw Bob Maher defeated you. You did pick up a win, so you wind up at 1-2 over the course of the night. Bob Maher at 2-1 is now in this interesting position. Yeah, here you get a good look at the standing. So David knows at 1-2 he's going to be headed down to the third group. He's going to be joining me and Rich Shea and whoever loses the match we're about to watch. That will wind up being one of our groups in the next set. Bob Maher at 2-1 does not yet know his fate because it actually depends on this match. The group winner could still be Bob or Rachel or David at this point. David Williams controls his own destiny because he's already got not just a win, but he's got an extra game win even in the one that he lost. He controls his own destiny. If he beats Rachel, he wins the group, and that's just done and dusted. If Rachel wins 2-0, she wins the group. If Rachel wins 2-1, however, she and Bob are tied. It comes down to head-to-head, which Bob won. So all 3 of them are alive, depending on exactly what happens in this last game. I don't know that we expected tiebreakers to be quite this relevant to the group format we were trying out, but I mean, we published the rules. It is what it is, and all that drama comes down to this one last match of the evening. They are ready. Let's get down to the table.
All right.
Here we go. The mentor, we'll call it a mirror. In practice, Rachel is on a Jeskai list. Pretty straightforward Jeskai list, a little heavier in red than most mentors. You see the sudden shock in her hand, which is specifically for the mirror. David Williams, you see the thing that sets his deck apart is those stony silences, which are not particularly good in the mirror. So you kind of have to say edge Rachel so far.
Yeah, you might be able to call those enchantments a stone cold blank, whereas it'd be quite shocking to see if he kept his hand. So I expect him.
Quite shocking.
Quite shocking. Yeah.
Where'd you learn that one?
Well, hanging out with friends for a long time, you pick up each other's lingo. But this hand from David is not very powerful. It's with the exception of Ancestral Recall. Unfortunately, he can't really defend it. So, I mean, him being on the draw and this being the mirror match, it's probably going to be a little bit slower. The mentor decks lately don't really run too much acceleration in terms of moxes, so he can have a few draw steps to sort of sculpt his hand a little bit more. And right now, you can see that Rachel, with that Cataxian probe, is going to be able to set up some interesting sequences because it will give her information to either speed it up or step down, depending on what she sees from David's hands and how she wants to play against that.
Certainly she knows what that mental misstep is for now.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, it's funny. I mean, the Stony Silences, not only are they approximately irrelevant to the matchup, I mean, technically I think Rachel has an extra mox or two above what David has, but whatever. They're pretty close to blank. They're not even blue blanks. Like if they were blue, mission accomplished, exile, defend this ancestral recall, but they're white blanks, so.
Ooh. That's pretty good. Now, you might see David just fire off his ancestral right now because, I mean, even though he would probably have to discard, it's not going to really matter because one of the Stony Silences is going to go away, and having drawn the blue card for the Force will just let him resolve it quickly enough.
Yeah, notice David did just decline to cast Ancestral. He went through an entire turn cycle. We're now to his second main phase, and he did not crack his fetch land on Rachel's turn. He did not attempt that Ancestral Recall. He's just assumes she either has a misstep or a Force of Will, so he waited, drew the blue card.
Oh, yeah, but now that he has the blue card, he's much more likely to Ancestral now. He's probably going to go, oh, let's see, he wants the...
Interesting.
By this time.
That surprises me a little bit because she used a Gataxian probe last turn, so she knows there's an Ancestral in his hand. And she knows, in fact, assuming she wrote down everything in his hand, she knows that Preordained was not there a turn ago, so that was his draw step.
Yeah, she knows everything right now and how she wants to go on at this point. Ooh, that Jace is pretty good.
He found a blue card. Yeah, it's both a blue card and a potential long-term threat. Interesting. So David attempts to bait misstep. Still slow rolling his ancestral.
He's not in that great of a shape right now, though, because the mentor deck, at least Rachel has got she's got the full complement of Swords of Plowshare, just like you'd expect. But in addition, Sudden Shock, I mean, it's going to be really good against this Jace that would potentially loot away these dead Stony Silences. So it's not going to be something that David can really rely on to get active.
That's a great point. The Jace Vryn's Prodigies do give him something to do with the Stony Silences, potentially. I just don't see this one surviving long enough. Yeah.
With the composition of David's hand, the Jace would better remove for Forcible, but he wants to, I guess, play and take the more opportunistic lines. Just hope that
I like it.
Removal. Yeah.
Time Walk is a blue card to pitch, so Jace seems better than Time Walk here. And yeah, she's not going to hesitate. Just get that Planeswalker out of here.
Yeah. Jace is going to be joining Elvis outside of the building.
Williams does not defend it.
Oh, no.
And here comes Dak Faden.
It's going to be good, especially with this Gush in hand. We'll let Rachel use her lens pretty effectively, and so she'll be able to loot away that Flooded Strain without too much worry.
Now, do you force will this if you're David?
At this point, it's tough. I mean, Dak is just pretty good.
Yeah, it's so much value for her over the course of this game that I think he has to. I think he's not happy about it, but I think he has to. She could Gush as a response.
She could, but she's only drawing into Force of Will.
Right. Yeah, not like she has Flusterstorm mana or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you let it go. I think I like that. You might top deck a Mentor next turn.
It's not
mental misstep off the top. Now the slow rolled Ancestral finally goes to the stack. Rachel snaps off the misstep she's had saved for it since turn 1 Gataxian Probe, but David found an answer.
Yeah, this is gonna...
Gosh says, does she get to top deck a misstep too? Ooh. That's an awfully expensive Force of Will if she does it.
Yeah, but that Jace isn't coming down anytime soon. And
it's true. It's 3 turns away, so I think I like it. especially when she knows David's hand is Stony Silence, Stony Silence.
Yeah,
I mean,
now we actually have a little bit of a game.
Oh yeah, I mean Rachel she's up a sudden shock and a land basically.
Yeah, they're almost even, but Rachel's utility cards are better than David's.
Right, exactly. All right, David keeps playing the land destruction game. He's going to play the Stony Silence. Sure, she's got a Pearl. He doesn't have anything. That Stony Silence is not exactly blank. It functioned like a wasteland, basically. Library could take over this game.
Both players are just looking for something, any card to let them get back into this game. Like just sort of chain together draw spells to find some sort of payoff creature. Fortunately for Rachel, she's got the first one covered with that sudden shock. And if the game goes on long enough, that library is going to teach David a card advantage.
I don't think I play anything if I'm Rachel. I'm trying to get to 7 for library.
After drawing a mentor, I mean, you can wait 2 turns, or you can play mentor in 2 turns. I'd probably wait 2 turns and activate library, then play mentor.
Yeah, I would not play a land here. But, I mean, it's defensible because it allows her to play the mentor next turn, but it's not like she can defend it from a Force of Will or anything. I think library wins this game.
Yeah, library is going to be pretty good. And I'm not sure if how many wastelands David has in his deck.
It's 2 wasteland, 1 strip, so there's 1 wasteland left.
Yeah, so it's going to be pretty difficult to have that library removed now that
she's not willing to bet her game on it though.
Yeah, it's just that there are more cards that get David out of this mentor game, and fewer cards to get him out of the library game. So relying on the library seems like it's more. It's going to be more realistic for that plan to succeed, but maybe not.
All right, Preordain found a Ponder. What does Ponder find? Finds a Force of Will. That will answer the Monastery Mentor.
Yeah, and right now David's got to really push the gas on that. Otherwise, this library is just going to make it very difficult for him. And so, but Rachel's playing out a lot of the stuff in her hand, so it's not as big of a deal. If Rachel were just holding cards, then David would really want to use.
Whoa! It would not have worked. She would have 6 cards in hand right now if she'd taken our line, and then would have gotten her library wastelanded. Hilarious. Doesn't make our line wrong, but the oriented thinking favors Rachel's line for whatever that's worth.
In the end, taking the line that gives you the highest percentage is just better. But it is more interesting that it played out more favorably for her in this case. And both players still don't really have anything. Still, David has all of his lands in his hand. And
goes for the library. Yep,
yeah.
Makes sense.
Oh, yeah. It's a mana source that can cast a Monastery Mentor, and from David's perspective, that's one of the more troublesome cards that he would prefer Rachel to not have.
Still feels like Rachel is slightly ahead, right?
Oh, yeah. David doesn't have anything, and Rachel has slightly more than nothing.
Slightly more than nothing. Sounds about right. She could, in theory, even blow up the Stony Silence to free her Mox from jail, but she knows about the second one, so do not expect to see that line. David keeps drawing cantrips.
No, that's good. Those cantrips are going to hopefully draw into more cantrips. No, that's good.
That's great. Yeah, David kept the Preordain as the blue card for Force of Will. I don't know if you Force of Will Brainstorm, but it's got to be tempting with that fetch land sitting there. Now the dead Mox and the almost blank Fragmentize go away. They get shuffled in. Look what just happened to her hand. Suddenly it's amazing.
Oh, so Brainstorm fetch with a bunch of dead cards is...
I mean, I would have contemplated a Force of Will on that Brainstorm. Like, when it's turn 9, and you're both just holding dead cards... Brainstorm fetch is insane.
Yeah, it's a tough spot. Only having one blue card it makes it so much more difficult to actually pull the trigger on that. Yeah.
He has to snap off a Force of Will here, but she got to brainstorm fetch, so she found not just the dig, but also the Force of Will and the blue card.
Yeah, the brainstorm was just too good. And depending on what Rachel sees in this top 7 cards is...
Those looks good. We didn't get to see them very long because both mentors went straight into her hand.
Yeah, this is going to be pretty good.
Off the top is not nothing.
Yeah.
First mentor is going to die.
She'll get 1 monk.
True. Yeah, you just play the dead emerald.
Do you would you play the emerald here? I mean,
yes, I would play the emerald here. I think. What, you want to wait for the second mentor? I think you just play it.
Yeah, you could get greedy because you're just trading off. You're assuming that both mentors resolve. You're having a monk in play for 1 less turn.
Yeah, but the game where both mentors resolve, you're so far ahead that, oh wow. Speaking of brainstorm fetch, there goes the Stony Silence. There goes the extra land. Suddenly Williams has an answer to the next mentor and a cantrip.
Yep. Once he sees, ooh, and he goes for 2 life, huh? That's interesting.
Force of Will does not get it done. Sudden Shock, not a blue card.
No, though now I suspect that Rachel was probably, well, I guess she was not going to wait. David's just going to snap off that.
Yep. Wow. Now they're both on Force of Will but can't cast it. Yeah, Ponder. Can the 1 monk that Rachel managed to get go all the way?
Yeah.
I mean, it only has to get him to 2 because there's that Sudden Shock has more than 1 target.
Oh, yeah. That's
Ponder into Gush. So good.
These monks are far less dangerous when it's singular, but still, it's going to be a bit of damage.
Great game. Sapphire.
Fighting for bit of card advantage and just barely clawed into it. It was just back and forth for quite a few turns where they were just doing nothing. But
she's kind of been ahead by that Sudden Shock the whole time, but with David not drawing mentors, hasn't done a whole lot. Well, it's going to matter here.
Yeah, that Sudden Shock's going to be pretty good. And then the 2 Force Wills has everything else covered. And with David down to 7 life, it's going to be 5 after the Sudden Shock.
Yeah, I mean, she could have Force of Will, but I like her line. Oh,
she doesn't need a Force of Will.
Right. Use Sudden Shock. Oh, she's going to lead with the Ancestral. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
And there's the Time Walk. Yeah, we're done. Sudden Shock is going to clear Jay. So I guess she doesn't have the mana for the Time Walk this turn.
Well, she could have played Time Walk and then attacked.
That's true. She could have give him the option to jump block. That might have been better. Yeah, I think that line was deterministic.
Playing Time Walk there is better, but it doesn't really matter. Oh, and there's.
Agreed. I mean, she's got Force of Will. She's got everything covered. So, Rachel Agnes takes game number 1. Wow, she is now 1 game away from winning this group and joining Brian Kelly, Paul Rietzel, and Rodrigo Tagores in the winners group in our next set. David Williams does still control his own destiny. If he comes back and wins both of these next 2 games, he can go to win the group. He can go play with Paul and Brian and Rodrigo.
Yeah, he certainly wants to win this, and the first step to that is taking those Stony Silences out of his deck. But the same thing goes with Rachel. I mean, she's going to be able to get some good cards like Pyroblast and Flusterstorm and whatnot. So, you get to see a blue mirror post board, which is...
Yeah, well, it's not really a mirror, though. Those Sudden Shocks are huge. And there was a second one sitting in her sideboard that she's now had the opportunity to bring in. So, sure, they both get access to Pyroblast now, but those almost cancel. I think Williams has 3 to Rachel's 2. But the 2 copies of Sudden Shock seem like perhaps the most relevant card either one of them has going.
Yeah, they're pretty good. Let's see, 4 mentors and 2 decks versus 3 Mentors in 2 decks, and then 3 Pyroblasts versus 2 Pyroblasts. So both of these hands are land light. Dave's got a turn 1 Mentor potentially, but he doesn't have any lands to actually cast it. So he's probably going to ship this one back. He really wants to keep it. Like if one of those cards were,
it's no cantrips and he's on the play. Like I'd be tempted to keep David's hand on the draw, but I don't think you can keep it on the play.
I would ship it.
Yeah, I think you have to. If he had a cantrip or was on the draw, you could start to think about it.
And Rachel, in a similar sense, that's probably going to have to mold this. His hand's pretty slow. It doesn't have very many land.
It's 1 land with 2 gushes. Yeah, I would mulligan both of these hands, I think. It's on David to think first.
Yeah.
He's thinking about it. The man is a gambler. World Series of Poker bracelets, World Poker Tour championships. You can't gamble like this. Like, what's the gamble that you're going to get to play a turn 2 Mentor?
Well, you would ideally draw Ancestral Recall and then follow it up with a Black Lotus, so you could play your Ruby after playing the Mentor.
Well, look, if we're going to live in Magical Christmas Land, how about I just mulligan into that instead of hoping to have it on turn 2?
Because it's more exciting off the top.
I can't argue with that.
And
wow, they both kept.
Yeah.
Whoa, Rachel was on the play?
I guess so.
David said go. David said turn 1, do nothing, go. This is turn 2 for David Williams.
Yeah.
He kept it. Wow.
I mean, it's not.
I mean, if you're keeping it, you don't need to play the boxes. It's true. I mean, if you're going to keep that hand, you just ship the turn. I've seen that happen. It's so bizarre when it happened. I saw that happen at Worlds one year where there was like a non-English speaker on one side of the table, and the guy's like, go. And the guy's like, no. You said play. I'm like, I don't have any lands. Go. All right. Rachel has found a turn 2 Monastery Mentor. Her draw worked out great. David, though, does have the Force of Will, of course. Wow, she's going to force back, and this Pyroblast off the Ruby is just the way David drew it up.
And let's see how much card advantage that Rachel can gush into.
Man, I think I would have gushed there looking for a misstep for the Pyroblast.
You're drawing into misstep or Force of Will versus being able to play. Ooh, that's good.
Her line, to be fair, yeah, he finally drew the land, so it's going to be turn 3 Mentor. Her line was, I want to play Dak Fade next turn and steal your Mox, which I think is actually really defensible, given that David went nothing on turn 1 and just a Ruby on turn 2.
Oh, yeah. And
so
this is pretty good. So she's Rachel's going to go Dak, Gush, Plow your Mentor, and steal your Mox Sapphire or Ruby, depending on what she wants to play around.
I think you take the Ruby because it's his only red mana.
You go that way. And she drew Ancestral Recall for a good measure. Just in case.
We'll get to that later. We got more important things to do. Gotta steal Mox Ruby. I need another one of those. Oh, he did draw a land, so his gamble has basically worked out. He got to play turn 3 Mentor. Well, he got to play turn 2 Pyroblast your Force of Will, which is always great. Turn 3 Mentor. But now here's turn 4 Mentor, and he's kind of running out of gas, and she kind of isn't.
Yeah, this is going to be
sudden shock. There's the bonus removal spell. That Mentor is also going to die with no monk friends left behind. Man, she gets to sudden shock and ancestral here.
Yeah, Rachel is miles ahead of David right now. It's going to take a lot of draw spells on David's part to be able to string together a win.
Yeah, I mean, she's discarding Preordained to Dak here, I'm pretty sure. That's how good her hand is. I would keep the Tundra since it's the only white mana. I would discard Library Preordain. She goes Gush Tundra. Interesting. I mean, her hand doesn't need any white mana. Defensible. Oh, Tundra, right on cue. What do you got left, David? A Plow. Noted. Second Plow.
This is about over. Probably.
He wastelands Volcanic, not Library. She's at 6 cards.
Well, at this point, he's just going to gamble on her not having very many more land.
That is absolutely the right way to play it if you're David. You try to color screw her. But you know it's unlikely with the DAC, and in fact, Monastery Mentor number 1 is here. She has a misstep for the first plow. Now, she doesn't know about the second plow, so the second plow is going to be bad news for Rachel, or disappointing news anyway.
She's still pretty far ahead, especially since DAC is going to steal the Sapphire. And Jace plus 2 Preordains is going to be pretty good. Even though that Sapphire is especially helpful because she's sphered on blue mana right now, so that's going to double the spells.
Yeah, David keeps blowing up her lands. Oh yeah, snaps off stealing the Sapphire. Like, okay, first things first, my Mox Sapphire. Now we'll figure out, okay, play Jace.
That's something.
You just have to get Jace off the board, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Three plows is pretty good for David, but... I mean, look, he's got 1 permanent and 1 card in hand. She's up like 10 cards.
Yeah.
8, maybe?
Yeah, she's up quite a few. The
Time Walk with 2 Planeswalkers in play. Oh, by the way, I also get a Monk Attack in. It sure looks like Rachel's going to win this. Sure looks like Rachel's headed to the winner's group. Yeah, David has seen enough. He's like, look, I got nothing. I have a DAC Faden in my hand, a Tundra in play. You got me. So Rachel gets the 2-0, and she needed specifically a 2-0 to beat Bob Maher on tiebreakers and sneak into that winner's group. So congratulations, Rachel. Agnes.
Yeah,
how about that? Well done. Well played. I'm sure Bob feels bad about the misclick. It turns out winning that game, if he'd still lost game 3 to David, then he still would have been beaten by Rachel in tiebreakers. So that's how that works out. But Rachel is through. Bob is going to be in the middle group. And there you go. 2 thumbs up for the author of The Road to VSL. She has definitely proven that she belongs. That's awesome. That's a fun night of Magic.
If she can keep on playing and drawing as well as she had against me, that was tough. How
did that look from your side?
It was a bit of a rough ride. But it's going to be interesting to see how the league unfolds from here. Like once the pods are reformed, and then you actually get to start doing a little bit of metagaming.
Right. Because we know exactly who's going to be in which group, we're all going to be building decks for exactly our group of 4 for the next set. I'll send an email out to the league tomorrow. I'll sort of sort out, okay, we know who they are now, but I got to go cross-reference that with people's schedule constraints and figure out which of the 3 groups is actually going to be playing next week. It's funny, that's actually going to be broadcast. Athena is already going to be in town at the WotC headquarters getting ready to cover the Magic Online Championships during next week's show. So sort of live from WotC headquarters as we get ready to broadcast the Mitgo Champs. That was a fun night of Magic. We had a lot of good matches. It's glad to see someone do the paradoxical outcome deck justice. Bob certainly performed better with it than I did.
Yeah, the paradoxical outcome makes the deck pretty interesting because you're not as reliant on some of the graveyard or the other draw 7s. Like you can just sort of do your thing. It makes sideboarding against a little bit more difficult.
For sure. But this just in, Mentor's still pretty good. It was 2 Mentor decks playing to try to win the group at the end. Rachel's was victorious, and I actually think the sudden shocks totally mattered. The difference between this match, I think it kind of turned into, both games snowballed into these runaway games. Well, the second game in particular. But both games, the difference of sudden shock versus stony silence mattered. So, I mean, I give props to Rachel for the slightly better metagame call, I guess.
Yeah. Well, stony silence is just such a blank there, for sure.
Yeah. Help me with the other 2 matches, though. I think that's going to do it. Thanks for hanging out. Well, good luck to you in the next group, except when you play against me. Hope you guys enjoyed it out there. Tune in next week. We will have the next set of groups up and ready for you. Keep an eye on my Twitter if you want to know who's going to wind up playing. And we'll see you then. So signing off for Vintage Super League. See you next week.
See you later.